All right, I'd like to call the meeting to order for July 18th, 5:31, 5:32. Any adjustments to the agenda?
The only thing I want to mention is executive session.
Okay, we are going to have an executive session,
Yes,
and that is for the purpose of discussion of real estate, is that correct?
that is correct, and I have motions
Yeah.
when we get there.
Okay. If there's no further adjustments, then I'd like a motion to approve the minutes of June 20th and the special meetings held on June 29th and July 10th.
I guess we can,
Take them separately if you want, whatever. you like.
how about if we take July 10th and June 29th?
And,
And
okay,
then
so you
they're
move
both
to pass
special.
those guys?
So I'll move to pass the minutes of June 29th and July 10th, 2018 special select board meetings.
Second that?
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of the July 10th and June 29th special select board meetings. If there's no further discussion, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And then June 20th?
I have to abstain from that,
Oh,
it's not here.
okay. So, motion to approve the minutes of June 20th,
I move that we approve the minutes of June 20th.
and we'll second that. And if there's no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Public comment on items not on the agenda. We don't have any public here tonight, so I don't think there will be any public comment unless anybody wrote in or something, but
No, I have nothing.
doesn't sound like it. So, okay, so we'll move on to select board items. First one is RSG contract amendment, which is related to the phase 3 section of the sidewalk, going from across the road from the Friends Meeting House up to Landmark College. There's a contract modification due to delays associated with completing phase 2 and therefore phase 3.
Acquiring the right-of-way.
Acquiring the
Easements.
rights. Yeah.
Yep. So the plans are 85% complete by RSG. They're continuing to work on them without a contract amendment. So the contract, the original contract was $49,946. There is a modification to add $22,062 for a total contract amount of $72,008.
Yeah, I had a question about that. Is this all just related to right of way and then reopening it? I mean, that's a lot of extra hours, it seems to me.
It is, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think one of the reasons is because there really has had to be pretty significant redesign
Yes.
Oh, that's right.
of a couple components, exactly.
On the
Right.
road.
So one change to modify so that we didn't need a right of way, and then another change in the structures to be installed in order to basically satisfy
Mhm.
a taxpayer's request to modify it
Right,
for their purposes.
yeah, and meetings with their engineer. So, there's been a lot of time spent on this last phase. And the state culvert too came into play.
That's right.
Right,
So-
that's right. Okay.
My recommendation is to approve the contract amendment. Otherwise, we would have to look for someone else to finish.
Start the process over.
And I don't think we want to do that.
No.
We're too far in this project to do that.
Yeah.
I agree.
No, and, I mean, I think our experience has been that RSG is always,
Yes,
they're thorough, they're complete,
Mhm.
they don't bill, I mean, it's just because it's been a complicated process, so.
yeah.
Right.
And they've been working with me and helping me out quite a bit, so, and Corey's been really good
Yeah.
and patient.
Mhm.
And we are closer. Just to let you know that we are at the point where we can talk to the parcel owner for the easement,
Final right of way.
to
Yeah.
negotiate with them. So So we're at that point right now.
They've remeasured?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So once we can negotiate with the owner and get them to sign off on the easement, they can finish and we can go out to bid. And
So-
we might be able to do that this week,
We're,
have this discussion.
and we're, okay, but then, so if that's completed, is the 85% sufficient to go out to bid or not?
No,
So
no.
that, it has to be like 90 some odd percent,
Yeah.
right?
But Corey's so close.
Right.
All he needs is the
This and a few other
yes.
things, yeah.
Yeah.
So if we were to get that straightened out, do we think we would try to go to bid this fall or not necessarily?
We could, yeah.
Okay. And we've talked about that a little bit as to whether it's the right time of year to do it, I guess.
Right.
I gue-
The engineer would know better,
Yeah.
and the bids that we receive,
would determine,
yes,
as long as we're not required to accept.
right,
That's the one thing we have to be cautious about.
Yeah.
You know, and the state of Vermont should be able to advise us on that. So,
contractors are busy right now.
Yeah.
So their deadlines are probably gonna be October to be out of streams.
Yeah,
It's depending on the weather, I don't know how it will go.
yeah,
I'm optimistic,
yeah,
but realistic,
Mhm.
maybe not.
yeah. Yeah, I don't know whether there's, other than sort of the state being able to advise us, I don't know whether there's a viable way to sort of test the water on that without actually putting it out to bid. I don't know whether you can, contact 6 companies and say, hey, we're thinking about putting this out to bid.
Yeah.
Would you be interested? I'm not sure whether that's legit, but it might be worth asking
Yeah.
the state whether
Yeah.
that's something we could do. Because if
Right.
we ask 6 people and they all say, there's no way we can bid at this point, then
Right.
let's not bother,
Mhm.
But you never know, there might be
There might be
a
something
few
out there
that
that needs
a
a
project
little
got
more-
dropped or,
Right,
yeah,
right.
whatever the circumstances are.
Stalled from something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, so you need a motion to approve the contract modification and be the signator?
I can be, or,
Yeah.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the contract modification with RSG for an additional $22,062 for a final total of $72,008 for Phase 3 of the sidewalk.
And to approve.
Oh, and to approve
Karen as the
Karen Ashley
signator.
as the signature contract.
I second that.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve the contract modification with RSG as presented and to approve Karen Ashley as the signator. If there's no further discussion, then all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Landmark College sidewalk email. So I was under the impression that you had been in touch with them about this,
Me too.
but they are still frustrated, which is
yeah.
understandable.
Right. At this point, too, I spoke to John Kaplan. He's with the state. He's our new project engineer because John LaBarge
Has
has
retired, yeah.
retired. I understand Landmark's frustration, but we cannot push anyone into signing. Otherwise, we jeopardize our funding. So there are certain criteria and laws that
Mhm.
prevent that from happening. So, I'm not quite sure how we want to handle this. I mean, I can let John know what's developed, and I've been keeping him in the loop anyway.
John McClary.
Yes, but the fact that this email also came to 2 of the 3 select board members, I think it's important that we have a plan.
Right.
And whether you want me to discuss with them, that's fine. I can do that.
You know, I mean, I guess the other thing we could do, and we could have done this for today, but we didn't, is to invite them to a meeting, you know.
We can do that too.
I mean, you know, we could write a letter of explanation, describe where we are, which it sounds like they're already aware of that, but
Right.
maybe we should put it in writing so they have something for their board.
It is for the board too, because
Right.
they're getting pressure
Yes.
and they're bringing it to
Yeah.
us and,
No, and I mean, you know, basically the points that are brought up is that it's a life safety issue, not a cosmetic issue, and, you know, we are painfully aware of this also. I mean, you know, we've been trying to keep this moving, but it's
Right.
been not a simple process, so.
And they were made aware of this, that it was on the agenda for tonight, I think, with that letter you sent back
right.
to them, the email.
Mhm.
So, so I, you know, I think, yeah, following it up
I can do that
with
in the
just
morning.
a letter that
Yeah.
is explaining the delays and that
Mhm.
our hands are somewhat tied.
They are tied and we have to be cautious about obtaining
Yeah,
easements.
And I mean, you know, the letter says, understand from Karen that no final design work, the bidding process or construction can begin until after this run right-of-way document is provided. The reality, yes, that's true.
It is true.
Although the design work is largely complete.
It is.
It's just, and the process for getting this right away has been to polish that design work in order to
Correct.
get the right of way, but there's nothing I mean, I suppose maybe technically we could take that land by eminent domain, but we don't think that would be a good idea, even if we could.
Right.
And so working through a right of way issue with a landowner is important, and I just also, they point out the question of whether the landowners are aware of the situation, and
They
yes,
are aware of that.
They've been, you know, they've lived in
I've
that
had
house
that
for many, many, many
conversation,
years, and
And they are all for the sidewalk.
they just need it to be done properly, not to
Yeah.
largely
They have an
impinge on their
investment
piece of
as
property.
well,
Exactly.
personal and
Yeah.
for the community and
Yeah.
for Landmark College.
Yeah.
They understand why it's being built,
Yeah,
but
well, we don't want to end up with a similar debacle that happened with drainage in front of Baskerville. I mean, that type of a thing. You know,
Right.
yeah,
trying to
no,
push
we'd
something
rather be doing it properly than rush our way through it and have
Right.
it be not quite right.
Because it ended
when
up
it's all
costing us
said
more.
and done.
Yep. as well as construction, you know, we don't want to just be rushed into. We understand the situation, we understand the frustration, but
We'd like it done too.
we're very close, we're so
Yeah.
close.
Yeah, no, and I think that's the important thing. is,
Yeah.
You know, it's just one step at a time. It's the only
Right.
way these things happen. So,
Yeah.
you know, it's not, as it is with Landmark, it's not the private sector. For them, it is the private sector. For us, it's not. It's a different set of circumstances and a different set of criteria to get a project done from start to finish. And we can't just say it has to be done. It just doesn't work that way.
No.
So Landmark, we recognize your frustration. We share your frustration, and we're doing what we can to keep it moving. You know, as we just were discussing, the question of whether we will be able to go to bid this fall rather than the spring is just a basic sort of logistical question of whether
Right,
anybody's available, and or are we gonna take a hit on pricing if we do try and do that, so.
So I have a question. Is there anything we can do to try and address some of the safety concerns in the meanwhile for kids that are walking or young people that are walking? Can we put any kind of signage on one side of the school and on the other downtown here saying this is you know, children walk, well, they're not children, but young
People walking.
people
Yeah.
walking, something that would hopefully slow people down and make them think about the fact that,
They have bike lanes, you
yeah.
know, I mean, I would think we'd be able to, I don't know if we can work with the state to secure some sort of, whether it be on the cemetery side
Mhm.
or, you know, a path through the cemetery, I don't know.
Historically, the answer has been no. Primarily because if they do anything and/or if we do anything, we're inviting liability issues.
Yeah.
So, you know, the state's response has essentially been, well, there is a guardrail there, people need to walk on the outside of the guardrail. Of course, the reality is walking on the outside of the guardrail in the winter is
None.
almost
Right.
impossible.
Yeah,
And potentially
Really
more
dangerous.
dangerous.
Yes.
Right.
But,
Yeah.
so, you know, we've talked about it and we haven't come up with a good, it would be great if we could do something, but
It's just a
we haven't
difficult
found
area.
something.
Fix it,
We
but
haven't
it
found.
might create some goodwill and it might slow people down a little bit if we could do some kind of signage.
Well, I mean, the one thing we have done, you know, and we can remind of this, but I noticed is to have more police presence.
Yeah. Yes, actually, he's,
And, you know, I noticed they were at JD's this morning, and I think they are semi-regularly. But,
yes,
you know, trying to slow traffic down on that basically southbound traffic is, I mean, it's, you know, it's the northbound lane that people are walking in, but it's the
Right.
southbound traffic that tends to be excessive
Going
in
down,
speed,
yeah,
so.
going downhill.
um, But we can certainly ask the Wyndham County Sheriffs to be as present as they can be out there.
I think they're doing an excellent job.
Yeah.
From what I've seen, I
Yeah.
see them out there
They're
pretty
pretty
regularly,
regularly,
yeah.
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 It's just a bad corner.
It is, my 15-year-old is learning to drive,
Mhm.
and even he's highly aware of it,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah,
Mm.
all right. Any more on those points? Yeah, I mean, some additional signage, I don't know.
The one thing, we talked about that a while ago, the one thing is that the state has to do a
Government.
study,
Yeah,
and that's what holds everything up.
so that could take longer than putting the sidewalk in.
Yeah,
Right.
because we were trying to.
We could have a sidewalk before we have sun, okay.
We talked about a crosswalk
Yeah.
over to the library.
Yeah.
From around the bank and.
What happened to the sign that was in the parking lot at Buzzy's? It was there for like a week, a crossing sign?
It got hit,
Oh.
and then it got hit again, and I think it got hit a third time.
Yeah,
It was, the problem was, and I don't know whether you noticed it, it was on a unmarked signpost.
yeah.
So if you were looking to not run into a person in the parking lot,
Mhm.
you weren't noticing the sign, and it got taken out
No.
several times. But that probably should go back.
Well, I wonder if it would be different now that it's not being used as
I think it
commercially.
would be, yeah. The other thing is, you know, the signpost itself should have
Yeah.
markers
Maybe they
on
could have
it.
like a nice planter around it or something, big concrete planter.
Not if it's a state sign, unfortunately.
Oh, come on.
But yeah, we should remind them could maybe remind Brian to remind them or somebody that there was a sign in Buzzy's entrance
Okay,
for that crosswalk.
yeah,
I mean, it's sort of a separate issue, but it
Yeah.
wouldn't, you know, more signage is better.
it's okay, because he's waiting on a couple signs, so I can,
It may already be ordered, I don't
Yeah.
know.
Is that a
Maybe
town
not,
responsibility or
but-
state? Okay, that's
that's
state
state.
responsibility.
Yes. I think.
it is a state road.
It is
Mhm.
state,
It's
exactly.
there,
And it was a state
right,
sign,
yeah.
exactly. We
So-
really don't do.
Brian just does all the outreach on that.
He's just in touch with those guys,
Yeah.
and he
Yeah.
would know their schedule for signage
Yeah.
and things like that, so he
Okay.
could say, hey, while you're doing it.
Okay.
But we're.
Yeah, that's definitely a state. I can get a hold of Mark Pickering. I'll talk to Brian first.
All right. Tax sale proceedings.
So this is the list. but not everyone on this list will go to tax sale.
Right.
Um, So,
Just out of curiosity, the people that don't have addresses, or a location address, is that,
yeah, it's nothing, I didn't put them in there,
okay,
probably
okay.
because I didn't have time, but, Colin York is on River Road. If you want more detail too,
I was just curious if
Yeah.
that, if
No,
that,
I mean, they have parcel numbers, so,
Yeah.
but at least one of these people I know does not live at the location
right.
where their location,
So,
their parcel is, so.
My question to you, because this is new to me. And I can contact Larry Slyson and ask him to, but do you want all of these to go to tax sale, or? My recommendation is this, so Carl Bayard and Raymond Cormier, they were on the list last year.
And went to sale.
No,
Didn't go to sale?
No.
Oh, I thought they went to sale but didn't sell.
no, they could not be contacted.
Those are the two, Karen, that I did the research on.
Right.
And I found them to be deceased, both of them, like more than 15 years ago, but there's no contacting the estate.
Oh, they're
no-
both the estate.
It's a
Right.
disconnection.
So I'm gonna have to,
are they still in probate, do you think? Is that,
I-
so that's a question for Leanne Sargent.
Yeah,
Karen Bills, I wanted to print you the map, but this is the property that's just a little sliver of land. There's a subdivision in this small sliver of land that is non-conforming and nothing can be done with it in the subdivision. The listers would like to abate it.
they'd like to abate it, but the problem is the land still exists.
It still exists, but with proper process, I think we can deed it out to those lots in that subdivision because it's used as like a driveway to at least one of them.
Where is this?
It is, I think is it Viewpoint? It's up there by Santa's.
oh, it's
off,
Taylor Road, not Taylor.
Off of Taylor
Yeah, it's
Road
up
up there.
that way. Yeah, no, I was,
Yep.
or Town Farm, but it's not.
I don't have that folder.
In between Pine Banks and Meadow, I can't think of the name of
Yeah.
it.
I
That's
don't
right on
have
the
the
interstate.
map here,
I
do
think it
I?
goes right along the interstate for a little ways,
Yeah.
Okay.
north of, on 5.
Next time I'll have pictures. Sorry. I know it's hard to talk about something you can't picture,
Mhm.
but, yeah, it's just,
Well, I think what we don't want to do is abate it and then be having the same discussion, or the,
Right.
future select board having the same discussion 5 years from now because it's accumulated and gone back to sale, et cetera. So,
right.
I think that we,
Well, it should not go to tax sales, my,
right,
yeah.
Because it's essentially like a right-of-way driveway right now?
No, there is a drive, it's like a road that goes up into the subdivision,
Okay.
and it's like parallel. And just below it is this other road that comes off of
Taylor,
Viewpoint or something, yeah, Mountain View?
Mountain View,
View,
Okay.
yeah. It's really odd, I don't even know how to even zone that way.
I'm guessing it was a surveyor glitch
Mhm.
at some point, that it just,
Yeah,
everybody got surveyed around it and it ended
Yeah.
up somewhere, but
Yeah.
I don't know that, but.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I guess if the listers have a sort of a proposal for how to manage it, because again, we don't want to,
to get
Right.
down the road.
I know.
Exactly. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, we already had some that we
Mhm.
have kicked down the road and they sit on our tax
Mhm.
list doing nothing and,
Right.
you know, it'd be nice to just get them cleaned up because they're not doing anything.
The town does not want to purchase, because we're really not in the business of acquiring real estate.
Yeah.
Owning useless slivers of land.
Well, you know, I mean, it might be a circumstance, and I don't know, I mean, I guess this would be a question for legal, you know, where we, you know, for all practical purposes, purchase it in order to be able to distribute it. I don't
Right.
know how that works,
Yeah.
but, you know, I mean, if we purchase it for whatever, even for $1, and then forgive the taxes that are due on it,
Right.
and we own it, and then we can deed it over, that might be the way we have to do it.
Right.
Because until we do own it, we probably can't do anything with it.
Yeah,
And there's no improvements on it or anything.
no, and we don't want to own it, because then we might have to maintain that right away too.
And or there's liability involved,
Right.
so, yeah.
So that's something we don't want
And does she doesn't own anything adjacent to that,
to,
or,
no,
so she just happens to own this one sliver?
yeah, and she knows it's not
And does she live in
viable,
Putney?
so I don't think so. I think she's in Broadway.
Would she be willing to
She
work with
may-
us on?
Yes. But let me talk to Larry's office first.
Mhm.
Um,
That's interesting.
So,
She doesn't own other property in Putney?
I don't believe
She's
so.
not a registered
No.
voter.
No.
Okay.
Look at you go, Steve. Resources.
Oh, that's
I
cool.
love it. Love it.
Huh.
So
It's weird.
Everett Harlow is with Larry's office. They're trying to create a trust. So once that gets established, I believe this
That'll
is
come
gonna.
off.
Yes. The next one, absolutely not going to tax sale for that amount.
Mm.
We'll see if we can work with her. At least get in touch with her. The next one, though, could go to tax sale. Well, the last three actually could.
Are these people's homes that they're living in?
So Prescott does not live
Right.
in that property.
Okay.
Welch, I have no idea. This is the first time I've seen her name,
Mhm.
because I looked back to see history.
Mhm.
So Prescott was on there last year. York actually bought his from tax sale.
And did Prescott go to tax sale last year? I don't remember. And nobody purchased?
Yes.
Is that what happened?
Yep.
And I'm assuming that's a mobile home lot?
It's a house, and it's not in very good shape.
And it's a mobile home or a house,
No,
house on a foundation?
I think it's a house on a
Is it?
foundation, yeah.
Oh.
I spoke to him, and he knew how much he needed to have, but he never got back to us.
Mm.
And the same with Mr. York. I sent him a tax agreement and never heard back from him.
And where is that one, do you know?
That one's on River Road. It's 32 acres.
Is it?
There's another house there, but it needs work.
Mhm.
People were living in there. He said he was renting it, but they finally moved out.
Mhm.
But there's 32 acres of, like, nice, it's a wooded lot.
Somebody would be interested in that,
Yeah.
I would think.
Right.
So,
So if you want me to pursue with legal, we can do the last three. But the others are just not,
what did you say about the 53 Pine Banks Road one?
They're
You
setting
haven't
up a
agreed.
trust.
Yeah,
Oh,
they're
that's
setting
right.
up a
Yeah.
trust, there's a daughter, and they're working with her.
And the Locust Lane is just too small for us to, we'll find a way to work with them or,
Well,
That's probably a mobile home, and,
Okay.
yeah, I mean,
it's a mobile home lot, yeah.
I can reach out to them.
It's
with
also,
her.
the problem is there's fees.
Right,
It would cost us more to put it through tax sale than we would recoup even if we got a maximum.
yeah. I really loathe the idea of putting anybody's to tax sale, but, I mean, I understand why it needs to be done.
Yeah.
And if it has to be,
Yeah.
but I would love it to be the last, very
Well,
last.
one thing I learned in the delinquent tax collectors workshop was if you have a mobile home with delinquent taxes, so you send notification out to the owner, but you also send it out to the mobile home park.
Mm.
Because most likely, if they're behind on taxes, they're probably behind on lot rent.
Utilities and rent.
So, yeah, yeah,
Do we have a mobile home park? How did I miss that?
so,
Where do we have a mobile home park?
yeah.
Over off of Locust Way comes off of Hilo Biddy. It's, if you go past Landmark and hang a right on
Uh-huh.
Hilo Biddy,
Mm-hmm.
it's in to the left there. And actually, most of it's managed by Wyndham Windsor.
I lived here for quite a while and never knew that.
Yeah,
See?
there it is. It's the last one. There used to be several.
Okay.
There used to be one on East Putney Brook Road, and there used to be one right on Route 5. McAllister was on Route 5.
Okay.
I want to say there was another one somewhere, but I can't remember. But yeah, this is,
I've driven right by there
That's one of
and
those.
never noticed.
yeah, no, there's a whole
Goes
batch
all
of
the
them
way
right
down
there.
to Sackett's Brook.
There's quite a few of them there.
How did I miss that?
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. We're, none of us want to put
No, I
people
know.
out to tax sale. I think that, we may have already had this discussion, but I think one of the arguments for putting people into tax sale is that it forces the issue.
Right.
Because the problem is, otherwise, next year, you're looking at these numbers and they're all 25% higher.
Yeah.
Right.
And, sort of the further you go down that slippery slope, the harder it is for anybody to recoup. My experience is that often, even if it does go to sale, people do figure out a way to recoup. If
Right.
it really is their home or really is important, because it forces the issue. But if you don't, then we just keep building our delinquent tax. So, but it's tricky, no question.
Yeah.
And it's not, it's not something any of us relishes, obviously, but.
And that number doesn't seem very high, but in reality,
Well,
If you don't have it.
if you don't have it, it's a
Yeah,
big
yeah,
number.
$5 is a big number if you don't
Yeah,
have
yeah.
it, so. Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I guess, I would say,
just to,
and have Larry's office, if there are compelling reasons to or not to put
Right.
any of these up, then we should know about them, but
Correct.
otherwise proceed as if the ones that are obvious will go and the ones that aren't, and then,
right.
Mhm.
Yeah, I just don't see having Leanne do work when,
when it's not gonna pay off.
Right.
No, and I think we really,
Yeah.
that's really sort of up to them to tell us that.
yes.
I mean, we've certainly had lawyers in the past who have said, if it's less than X amount in taxes,
What's the point?
it's not worth it.
Right.
So,
Cost the town more.
then what do we do with it? I don't know.
Right.
And there have also been times when there have been parcels that for various different sort of obvious reasons it's made sense for the town to purchase them and then
Yeah.
dispose of them separately, but it's not obvious to me,
Not
other
here,
than
no.
maybe the Karen Bills one,
Right.
that it's not obvious that any of those are in that category. But
Okay.
all right. Cemetery Commission. Is that me or you?
Oh, this is your, sorry.
Cemetery Commission draft policy.
Okay, so I presented this a few meetings back.
Yep.
And I did a little research. And actually, the select board does not have to do anything with this policy. In the select board manual produced by DLCT, because the cemetery commissioners are elected officials, they can regulate.
Are independent.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they're able to change and amend policies and basically run their own office as an elected official.
Good.
So the select board really has no authority or responsibility over the cemetery commission.
Okay.
I would just say, as I think we all said the last time when we saw it, that it's great to see
Right,
Mhm.
activity and
Activity,
policy
yeah.
and so on, and that I
yeah,
just appreciate that the cemetery commission is taking that role
yeah.
Yeah.
and taking care of those things.
So there's no action there for you as a board.
Okay. So, town managers report.
Okay, so flood and Fluvial erosion hazard regulations. So Steve and Josh, you're at the public hearing. Laura, you make it. There's information up there because there could be another public hearing
Okay.
by the planning commission. Pip was gonna wait a little bit.
I think we're required to have one, aren't we, at some point?
You are,
Yeah,
so you're gonna have to be prepared anyway.
right.
So Laura, the information is up there.
Maybe I'll
You
reach out
two
to
had
them.
left, it did get a little interesting. My impression is people were a bit confused.
Yeah,
They were a little hesitant to, adopt the regulations, not knowing that, potentially they couldn't do anything on their land. So
Mhm.
I feel a second meeting by the planning commission probably would be appropriate. I'm not quite sure, there might have been, 40 people there?
Quite a few,
Maybe
30
50,
plus, yeah.
yeah. Out of 140, that's, 140 postcards went out.
Of course, I mean, I got a postcard, but for me,
Yeah.
it's the most distant corner of our property that's, it really
Right.
has virtually no impact on
Right.
us at all.
And I think
Um,
the people at the hearing, they didn't quite understand the process either. And Andrew from the planning commission, he
Yeah.
explained it really well. He reeled everybody back in. He did a great job. But people have to know that even though they may have a flood area on their property, it doesn't stop them from building or, doing an addition or whatever. It just,
It may, but,
it may, but it just needs to be reviewed by
Right.
a third party,
yeah,
which is the state. And that's only to protect their property as well as the river corridor or the stream.
well, and, the other big thing that comes into it, sort of by saying river corridor implies this, but it's the downstream. If you have a property that's gonna come loose from its foundation in a
Right,
flood
right.
and wipe out 10 other people's
Yeah.
houses or clog a big culvert as
Yeah.
a result, that's a problem for
Yeah.
everybody.
There are some good questions. I wish they had pulled up actual properties
Yeah,
on the computer and showed people exactly what it
Yeah.
would look like.
Yeah.
Because the maps were really small, and I didn't see anyone go up to the bigger maps to look.
Uh-huh.
So unless you had all of the information
Yeah.
and think it through, then it's hard to understand what they're doing.
That demonstration I went to in Guilford
Yeah.
actually would probably be like perfect for this because it showed they had a big box that had sand in it and they created roadway. It was like playing Tonka trucks as a kid.
Yeah.
But they actually created what floods would look like on
Right.
different land schematics.
Mhm.
And it was enlightening.
Right.
You know? That'd be interesting to try and bring that in.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think that the thing that Andrew was trying to clarify, and maybe, I think it was still unclear when I left, but, you know, that the whole concept of measurement versus center line of the stream, et cetera. I mean, I'm certainly familiar with some properties that are affected by this where houses never should have been put in the first place.
right,
So those are the people who are gonna have a hard time
yeah,
doing something different down the road because, you know, the houses were put there before there was
Right.
any consideration of any of this. And, you know, if you take Irene as an extreme example, but obviously not impossible,
right,
you know, there's batches of houses that they're just gonna be gone if we have a flood like that. And there's nothing
Yeah.
anybody's gonna do about it. You know, I think it's in everybody's best interest to try and minimize
Right.
the impact
Yep.
that they're gonna have on others, so that's where it comes in. But that leaves landowners saying, well, wait, am I that person or not? For some it's obvious, for others it isn't, you
Yeah.
know?
Now, with the mapping like that, it's definitely a flag for the zoning
Right.
administrator.
Yeah,
But it doesn't, it's not a stopper, you know?
Right.
It's like, so John Broker Campbell is really good, he's efficient and,
he's the state guy. that was
Yes.
there. Yeah, no,
Yep.
he certainly
yep.
sounded.
And we already have an appointment next week to go look at somebody's property on East Putney Brook. So, you know, he wants to make sure that they can do,
What they
What they
want
need
to do.
to.
Yeah.
you know, and where his property is there's ledges right there. And they talked about the channels, you know, whether it's a bridge abutment or a natural channel.
Right.
So, you know, I haven't even gone out there yet, but, you know, I'm thinking, I already know kind of the topo. So it's like, we'll see what happens. But,
It's in everybody's best interest from what I'm hearing, that these
Yeah.
regulations are put in place and.
Yeah, and my sense is that, you know, the intention is really not to be punitive at all,
right,
but to be proactive
Yeah.
Yes.
and preventative,
yeah.
you know.
That's a very.
I mean-
So that they don't have the next
Yes.
FEMA,
Yep,
you know.
Exactly.
flooding.
yeah,
No, and again, I mean, there are some people whose houses,
Yeah,
it's just the reality that it is.
right,
but that's through attrition, we can, you know.
Exactly.
Hopefully not,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
the realities are,
Yeah.
our climate is
yeah.
changing.
If you have a piece of property and a stream on it, it's raw land, but you know it may flood,
Mhm.
so to prevent it, you might have to raise
What
it
are the steps
2
you can
feet.
take?
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Mhm.
So-
No, and my sense was that there's this is certainly my sense from the planning commission and/or / DRB, that they're not looking to punish people either. They're looking to be helpful in the process of saying, well, you know, hey, how about you think about putting it there versus here, because then it's not likely to get washed away.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
And, you know, sometimes that's obvious and sometimes it's not, but I don't think it, you know, I've definitely had conversations with people since that meeting who have sort of said, wow, I'm screwed, and it's like, well, you probably aren't screwed.
Right,
You
right.
know, but people feel that way, because it's,
But they don't have all the facts yet.
right,
It's-
And they haven't
It's a
been-
new concept and it's like, you know, I get the whole, you know, state regulates and mandates and
right.
then all of a sudden you all have to conform and it's like, but we can still do it.
And I think, you know, the other sense I have is that people are hesitant to, like you said, you know, there weren't very many specifics brought up.
Right.
I think part of that is because people are hesitant to draw attention to their
Yeah.
situation.
Yeah.
And, you know, for some people, that's legitimate for various reasons. For other people, that's not the idea here. So, you know,
So, yeah, I think maybe perhaps the planning commission doing one more hearing and answering some more questions, and then the select board will have to do a hearing. And by that time, people might be satisfied.
And maybe suggest, maybe not the thing that you saw in Guilford, but maybe they do
Have a model.
have a model
Yeah.
and just go through it, you know,
Mhm.
just
We can talk
an
to Jeff and
example.
ask him, you
Or we
know.
could do a slideshow from Irene.
He did do, they
Okay,
did some
they
slides,
did.
and there were some,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you know, looking at inundation versus
Mhm.
erosive, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
you know, Irene,
It's
there
pretty-
wasn't anything you were gonna do to stop that, so what can you do to minimize the damage, you
Yeah,
know?
and that's a lot of what was talked about at that resilient roads and watersheds
Yeah,
thing I went to, that it's all about minimizing damage
Yeah.
and looking forward into the future, how we do things.
yeah.
Oh,
I think the other thing that's important for people to keep in mind is that this is not unique to Putney. I mean, the whole state
Right.
is going
Yeah.
through this process, so
Yeah.
it's, you
yeah.
know, and it shouldn't. I mean, you know, these are life safety issues also. I mean, you know, we all like to think we're not gonna be the one who's gonna get hit by that next flood, but it's always possible.
Yeah.
Well, that meeting included Guilford, Marlborough, and Vernon. So
Right.
those three towns were having the same, very similar conversations.
And that's probably partly because they share a lot of watershed, I think. I mean, Marlboro, that
Yeah.
sort of Ames Hill Valley heads down that way.
Yeah. It's affecting everyone. Their road crews are going through a lot of changes
No
in this.
question. All right, well, you know, I mean, that's obviously up to Pip to figure out timing and,
I'll talk to
you
him.
know, the other question, and I don't know whether this would make sense, but if it made sense, timing and sort of practicality wise, to do a combined meeting
Mhm.
of planning commission, select board, you
Yeah.
know,
We,
sort of kill two birds with one stone, but maybe that wouldn't work.
let me see if we can do that.
If, yeah, I
Because
don't know
there
whether we
is
could.
like a
Right.
process.
Right, yeah.
So, but yeah, no, if we can combine, it'd be great.
Yeah, I think, I mean, like you said.
You have to notice it and all that.
Yeah.
too, So,
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, plus it just,
yeah.
you know, X number of days after, X number of
Mhm.
days after X number of days.
Yeah, and then you're gonna wait like 60 days before it's effective.
Implementation.
Yeah, yeah. So it could be December.
Well,
Yeah.
All right.
maybe we'll have glaciers going down those street beds by then.
Okay, so Old Depot Road Pump Station. So since Wyndham Windsor 18 apartments have come online, the pump station wasn't adequate enough for that building. So they,
We knew that going in.
yeah, so what happened was Vermont Housing put in pumps, okay, to handle the flow
Right.
with the addition of the 18 apartments. So since then, it appears, and Chris Hayes has been in contact with me, along with, I don't have my, Stevens Associates, Ham Hodgman and Rudd Sanderson, and some other parties. I don't have my notes with me.
Can you,
Must
I'm
be
sorry,
on-
just before we go any further, pump station pumping water,
Sewer.
septic?
Sewer,
Okay,
yeah.
sewer,
Back.
okay.
So, in that particular pump station,
It's at the end of the road?
yes.
Okay.
If
But
you
it
go,
all,
if
yeah,
you
go
go all the
ahead.
way
Down
out,
Old Depot.
there's
Yeah.
sort of a cul-de-sac.
Turnabout, yeah.
that- It's right there.
Yeah, I've seen it. Okay, now I know what that is.
Yeah. No swimming. or-
No,
you know,
no,
like-
don't worry, you don't have to worry about that.
plus the Putney Inn, Laura,
Right.
that pump station pumps up,
And from West Hill.
yeah,
Okay,
to Old Depot.
okay.
So that flows,
From West Hill, no.
West
From-
bike
Hill,
shop.
Bike shop, I mean.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
so all that comes up the hill too.
It comes up the
Into
hill to that pump
yeah,
and then that
it
pump.
gets dispersed
Okay.
wherever it goes, okay? So we have engineers, we have Vermont Sewer and Drain. They're gonna scope it with a camera. But
So are we currently having a problem?
we are
or-
having a flow problem right now, and we don't know if it's because the pumps weren't adequately
Sized.
sized, or there could be a blockage down the line somewhere. So they're gonna be, we have a meeting next week, the 25th, 2 o'clock down at the pump station.
So what are we doing, pumping it out with trucks? and
No,
stuff? How are we-
it's working right now, but this
Just
is,
have to do volume control or something.
well, I told Chris Hayes, he's like, we gotta find a solution. So whether they re-engineer those pumps to handle the flow, so they're not working as hard. If there's a blockage, well, that's gonna solve most of the problem. But with the Putney Inn coming online in August,
Right.
so that's gonna be added flowage too.
Yeah.
So
And not all the
everyone's-
residents are in there yet. In the,
I think they might be.
there's a couple empties up there still. There's at least one that I know, because my mother-in-law lives there now. So I've been,
Really? Because
Yeah.
we were gonna try to have a meeting in one of the empty apartments and they said they were full. Maybe their
Oh.
lease did not moved in. I
yeah,
don't
that's
know.
possible, but
But, so we are having a meeting and Chris is on top of it. Simon's Operations. He's our contractor.
I mean, you would certainly assume that it was engineered appropriately. Maybe not, but
Yeah.
hopefully.
I'm not sure, and Chris and I had a conversation, and I kind of get some of it, and, but, you know, some of it's, you know, I'm glad Chris is here, because
Yeah.
I'm trying to,
you don't want to fix that on your own?
no, I just, you know,
Grab your shovel.
um, it's not an easy fix either, if they gotta, you know, go with a bigger pump.
No, well, you know, then if the pump's not big enough, or the pump,
Right.
or the line's big enough, et cetera.
Because see, yeah, and if it doesn't, if something happens there, then that means below is in trouble too.
Problematic.
Right.
Well, I mean, we've had trouble before down below and we have to truck it out. Because there's a
Right.
holding tank down by the inn. And that has to then get pumped out
Right.
in order, but like you said, with the Putney, when that happened, the Putney Inn was
Was-
completely offline.
Right.
So, you know, now that there's the Putney Inn Hotel and with the restaurant coming on, because I can't remember how often we were pumping, but it was at least once a week, I think.
Yeah.
And so if they were really all up and running, it would mean
Yeah.
really regular pumping, and that gets very expensive very quickly.
So I only brought this to your attention because I think it's important to keep you advised of what's going on.
Well, so they're gonna scope it when, next week sometime?
It hasn't been scheduled yet,
Oh, it hasn't?
so they're pretty busy,
Yeah.
Brian and Dan Tyler, so. But they're a good company and they're quick, so,
Yeah. No, I'd reckon
yeah.
they solved a problem at the school a couple of years ago that no one could figure out,
Mhm.
so.
So if any of you want to go to the meeting next week, you're more than welcome. I'll be there, but,
Good.
okay. So highway department, I don't have my notes in front of me, I'm sorry. I typed them all up and,
Do you wanna go get them or not?
um,
Or not? You don't have to.
no, I don't have to, I think I'm good.
Yeah.
Holland Hill, the culvert is built, Renault Brothers built it.
Oh,
So we contracted with Michi.
yeah.
Michi couldn't deliver,
Couldn't deliver
they couldn't get it built.
physically?
No,
Oh,
they couldn't
couldn't.
get it built in time for us to install this year.
Huh.
So Brian spoke with Renault.
And they did
Now,
it themselves?
they're building box culverts now.
Yeah.
And he was able to do it for a little less than what Michi had quoted us.
Good.
The box culvert is built.
That's with the open bottom.
Yeah, because they got the,
Yeah, it's just like three
Right,
sides.
right.
Yeah.
So that has to go up to bid. So Brian's getting ready to get that out to bid so we can get it installed.
We didn't have that, that didn't go out. We got the bid on the construction of the culvert, but not on installation.
Right.
Yeah,
So that has to go out to the bidders, so that's in motion. But that's good news, because Brian was thinking he was gonna have to do it in the spring.
delay, yeah.
And then we did receive the second structures grant for Fred Houghton.
Yeah,
So Brian didn't really want to do 2 box culverts in 1 year.
year.
Yeah, that's a lot, you know,
Mm.
with everything else going on.
yeah.
The over-the-rail mower, so people are
Mhm.
calling because things are getting a little overgrown. So we don't have the mower here. The mower's up north. The attachment hasn't come in yet. And Brian's thinking by next week. It should be mounted and back to us, so he can start that. Now, I asked Brian too, I said, well, I thought we were gonna get a demo. He's like, yeah, that didn't happen. I'm like, and he knows, he's aware, he knows things are getting a little out of hand. But he's hoping for next week.
Thank God it's been pretty dry
Yeah.
for that reason.
Yeah, it's been dry.
Slowed everything down.
A couple roads that needed some attention. Brian got on that. He was waiting for chloride because they're so dry.
Yeah,
The minute you start grading, you get a dust bowl. And it doesn't last anyway unless you put chloride over it
yeah.
to keep it in place. So, people used to use water,
Mhm.
but the chloride, I guess, works better.
Well, people
It
used
keeps
to use oil. I mean, the practice way back was use motor oil.
Yeah.
A great way to go.
That's not good for the
Yeah.
environment,
Really not
Josh.
good for the environment.
No, that used to be standard, that was standard protocol for years. And everybody was thrilled, the oil truck would come and cover the roads with oil. It's like, oh, finally, no more.
And the chloride
Dust.
keeps the dust down too,
Okay.
but, so,
It's calcium chloride, it's the same stuff that they put in tractor tires and things, and it just binds it.
Uh-huh. Interesting.
so
I did
he's,
not know that.
yeah, so he's keeping on top of that.
I just thought it was just water.
Just a woman who lives on East Putney Brook Road, toward the end by the campground. I mentioned this a while back. The person down there who lives at the campground area now put up a no trespassing sign.
Mhm.
At Brookside?
Is it Lori?
Yeah.
Lori?
I don't know who lives there.
Okay.
Yeah, but she used to walk there all the time, and she says she feels very hesitant to walk back there because the no trespassing sign supposedly is still there. And it's supposed to say town trail or something instead. It's the one that ends up going all the way up.
Going
Yeah,
up
no,
through
it's-
the
Yeah.
town farm, right, or something?
Well,
So it's right before the old campground?
Yeah,
The no
exactly.
trespassing sign, it's like you're entering that
Right.
old campground.
I have to
Yeah.
drive up there because I just had a meeting with the owners of that.
yeah, see, I mean, this was a couple weeks ago. She said it was still there. She said she feels very uneasy, as if it's, there are going to be people sitting around with rifles or something when she walks back there. And she used to walk her dog all the time. And so, she said.
And it's a class 4.
It's a class 4,
Right.
yeah.
It is a
Yeah.
class 4, and we're gonna have a discussion about that
Yeah.
after I get some more information, but, yeah.
Mhm.
Because I know Brian maintains the road up to the intersection,
Right.
Mhm.
and then he takes care of the bridge, but not in between. And then it turns into the trail. Apparently, nobody drives beyond the bridge.
No, you can't really, I mean,
Right.
and that road just actually goes all the way up into Westminster.
Yes,
It's out by
yeah.
South Valley Road.
Yep.
Um,
Oh, that's that one. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
No, I was thinking there's another one that goes up and connects to Town Farm Road, I
yeah,
think. But my recollection was that it didn't go all the way through anymore, that it had been
I don't think that
thrown
one
at
goes
some
through.
point. No, I don't think it does, but,
Yeah.
so,
So I'll take a
So,
look at that.
yeah, it was just a,
Yeah, that's
she said
weird.
just for a reminder, yeah.
Huh.
I don't know.
Is a really big sign. Like, it's
No
not
trespassing
normally
sign.
large, no trespassing sign, yeah.
and is it like somebody just put it there because they could? kind of
I
thing?
want to say, I
There you
think it was spray painted or made over maybe an
town.
existing town sign or
Yeah,
something,
it,
or something like that. I
I'm
haven't,
curious now
Yeah.
what, because I didn't hear about that when I had a meeting with, Dr. John.
So this is past the tree farm on East Putney Brook? Or, I mean, the tree farm's up off to the side, but,
this is, I think it's right as you're rolling into the
Yeah.
old campground.
Yeah, it's like right at the entrance of that old campground.
All I know about the, yeah, and they're getting a lot of traffic up there,
Mhm.
whether it's GPS or just, you know, they
GPS is-
go up
So
and
there's
they
a-
turn and they
go out.
they leave.
There's
you
a
know, so-
GPS error. This happened to me. I was actually going out to that old campground and it took me on, that's East Putney Falls, Brook Road. It took me on East Putney Town Road.
East Town Farm Road?
East Town Farm Road,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
So there's a mix-up in the
Well,
GPS.
that's what I'm saying.
The
There-
two of them are
There used
combined
to,
as one.
well, it used to be that there was a continuous route that way, but it's not anymore. You
Tell the
used to be able to
GPS
go all the way, yeah.
Yeah.
And I just wasn't, I had punched it in because I'd never been out there to that particular space before and ended up at the wrong place. So,
Yeah.
and then said I should have known
You and
better.
a bunch of other people
Yes,
apparently.
yeah,
Oh, There's
exactly.
a ton of glitches in Putney
Yeah.
with GPSs.
So most of the time I have pretty good luck with it. And I just use it because it tells me like right where the house is
Right.
when I'm going to a new address, but
I tried Westminster Road after Hickory Ridge going north.
No.
nothing.
Everyone gets lost.
Huh.
Because it's Westminster Road and West Road.
Right.
And
Yeah.
all the numbers change.
And
Yeah.
West Road.
And
yeah.
West
Yeah.
Road, it's,
See, when you explained that, we had a conversation about this, and I'm like, I didn't realize that.
Well, the other thing that's
Yeah.
tricky up in there,
It makes sense.
at least for me, the other thing that's tricky up that way is that I lose all cell service.
well, that,
So you get to a certain point where your GPS isn't gonna work regardless.
that's true.
Right at Aquaviva, it's like,
Yep.
gone.
All right, so moving on, the new generator and the garage doors at the town garage should have been complete today.
Good.
So, the 10-wheeler is up in Morrisville. There was a problem with the hood. They couldn't open and close it because of the
problem.
plow. No, the plow frame is
Oh,
different.
Interrupted it.
Yeah, so they had to make an adjustment on the hood. So Brian should be getting that back too soon. So, not that they were needing it or anything, but he'll be happy when it comes back.
An operable hood is
Yeah.
useful.
That's helpful.
Yeah, so things are happening. Fire department update, let me see if I can remember what I had on my list.
Generator and fire department doors.
The generator is operational, they've used it 4 times already, so Tom said it's great.
Good.
Engine number 2, there is some issues with it, just to give you guys a heads up. The onboard hydraulic pump, there's a problem with that. It won't put the truck out of commission. They can still use it without it, but Tom's gonna have it looked at, see if it can be repaired. Also, there's a transmission issue, which means Twin State will have to look at it. Tom will keep me posted with cost and timing and all that stuff. So, something to keep in the back of your mind. I know there was other stuff for Tom, and I just can't remember.
What's going on with the, when we were in there for that meeting, I noticed that they don't have the
AC.
yeah, the
Oh.
distribution, the heat pumps.
Oh, that's the other thing. Thank you very much for bringing that up.
Mhm.
They've been ordered. By the end of July, they should be in place and working.
Mhm.
So Josh King will be doing that install. So there's 5 of them.
I had a conversation, Chief Goddard, and I don't know if everybody's aware of this, but I just feel like it should be said that he goes around to all of our housing insecure families and civilians that need some help, and he's been checking in on them and giving them things that they need. He even managed to get some air conditioning for people
In the heat wave, yeah.
and during the heat
Yeah.
wave, he was able to pull that together for them. So he told me that there's about 18 at this time in Putney that are housing insecure.
Nice.
So, something he should be recognized for, because
He
that's
is the
not part
health
of the job.
officer. No, he's the health officer too, Laura,
Mhm.
so, but, yeah, and as a fire,
He goes above and beyond.
he does.
Yeah.
Mhm.
He has many hats,
Mhm.
and he's all over the place, and it's like, I don't know how he does it some days, but he does a really good job, as well as Brian,
Mhm.
so, and the crew,
Mhm.
so I just want to recognize them.
Mhm.
Yeah, actually, while we're on, yes, absolutely, recognize all of them. They all do a very good job.
Yes,
Um,
they do.
Somebody asked me, and I didn't know, and I didn't, that person was gonna follow up with Tom, but the question came up of the possibility, and you may know about this, the possibility of the food shelf
Yeah.
occupying some of the upstairs space at the fire department. And to my knowledge, they haven't been.
It's not
Act-
finished.
It's not finished, no.
It's not finished,
But,
it's- yeah.
but it hasn't been, they haven't been, I mean, I think Tom sort of chips away when he can,
He does,
but
yeah.
they haven't been actively sort of doing anything up there. And, you know, somebody said, is that a possibility? And I said, well, it certainly would be a possibility, you know, something we should discuss. Tom had not been approached yet, and I don't know whether he would be particularly receptive to the idea or not. But it's really probably our decision with Tom and with others to think about that. But it seems to me not to be at all an unreasonable use for it, especially since it's got an elevator, so it's got access and it's got, you know, it's just sitting there, so.
Yeah.
Does it have a
Yes.
separate outside access too?
No,
No, okay, I was just curious.
There's a letter, I believe, has been sent to him.
Has
An
there?
email has been sent to him by our board chair, and I'm not sure that, I haven't seen a response
yeah,
from him yet, and it may be something that he decides to bring to us, and like I told them, most likely that it would have to come to us, and then I would probably step out of that conversation because I sit on that board.
yeah.
So, but yes, that is something that they are interested in and asking questions about right now. So, and could be a great fit.
Yeah, seems to me a reasonable use of a municipal, you know, the other thing I thought is, well, you know, we've got the upstairs of town hall, but it's not accessible.
Yeah.
It's not, there's no
Right.
access, so that's
Yeah, we
probably.
would have to get access.
And
to
heat
it,
and so on, you know, that would be a whole lot simpler down there. You know, there may be reasons why it doesn't make sense that I'm not thinking of,
Yeah.
but Tom will bring
He
that
would
to
be the
people's
best at
attention.
that.
Yeah, so I would recommend,
Mhm.
see what,
That's what
if the letter was sent, he'll respond,
yeah,
whether it's
Yeah.
through the
Uh,
board or,
Yeah, it just was sent, I think, yesterday, so, so he may be reading it right now while we're discussing
Right.
this, so.
and for the upstairs, I received a letter from the Historical Society,
requesting space,
the upstairs space.
yeah.
So, I need to ask some more questions and then I'll bring it to the board.
Okay.
But again, access
Is a problem.
is an issue, but housing the Historical Society upstairs means more grant money.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing,
Renovations.
it's a much more optional attendant, you know, I mean, the food shelf is a great thing.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing about the
It's
food
not really a
shelf,
great fit for this building at this time.
I agree.
Yeah.
No, that's what I'm saying over there. I mean, access, two things about it. One, access is there, exists, but also the ability to, you know, potentially use that downstairs space for, you know, days that it's actually open to the public. Or, you know, I don't know how you would do it, but,
Right.
you know, I can imagine that just seems like a much more workable situation than this does. It just, you know, these are spaces that we aren't using and could be. And,
Right.
but the Historical Society, I think, would be a better fit, and
I
It's
agree.
long-term.
it's long-term,
Yeah.
and it's
They don't have
also,
to keep moving.
well,
They put all their stuff in
and
one
also, I
house.
mean, they, you know, they can figure out how to
Yeah.
make things that they want accessible,
Right.
more accessible, more
Right.
easily than the food shelf
Yeah.
can, I think, so,
So as that develops, I'll keep you in the loop.
Great.
it's good.
So I can't remember anything else for Tom, but commissions and boards. So the Animal Advisory Board is active. We spoke about the Public Safety Committee. What is your desire? Do you want to meet with public safety?
I mean, I kind of think that it would be interesting to see if that board could be kind of recreated with some other people. I mean, not that there's anything. I mean,
Include some that are on it and include some
include some
others.
that are not,
Yeah.
yeah. Because I think it's, there's a very kind of limited scope of voices currently there. And I think it'd be nice to have other people.
Okay.
I don't feel right now like we have sort of the same urgency
Right,
for
that's-
a mission for them that we had. But it would be great if that board was, or committee was more proactive than reactive. 'Cause it, you know, we sort of formed it reactively because we needed to.
Right.
But I think they could, the right group of people, and again, many of them may be the right people, but some may not, but the right group of people could be very proactive and
Yeah.
helpful in public safety issues, so.
Why was it formed?
Well, it was initially because of the police situation, but then the fire
Okay.
station issues came. at the same time.
Community policing,
Oh.
fire station, rescuing.
Rescuing.
You know, it was sort of several years running, we had significant varying public safety questions that needed to be addressed, and so. You know,
Including
they-
the school contracts for access to emergency management?
That didn't have anything to do with that.
Great.
No,
It
those are-
still
those are
won't
good.
have anything that'll, okay.
I don't think they need to necessarily.
Okay.
No, I mean, I think I mentioned that when we were talking about the
Yes.
it was more just sort of sequence of
Okay.
process in my brain than
So do you want me
needing them to be
to schedule
involved.
them to come to a select board meeting, or?
Well, I guess we would want to know what we're thinking we would want to ask them if we were gonna, or tell them, or discuss with them, or,
Do you want to task them with anything specific, or?
I don't know.
Okay.
Do we need to right now? You know, I guess we should think about, well, either we should think about how we could be more proactive with public safety stuff, or ask them to think about how they could be more proactive
Right.
with public safety stuff. You know, we seem to be in a little bit of a lull right now, which is great.
Yeah.
But, yeah, exactly, but, you
Are
know,
we do?
Maybe bring in,
Some of us are, right?
that's a different story. Maybe bring in Deputy Tuttle and have a conversation with him before
We
we have
could, yep.
see what his perspective is on public safety and what needs to be addressed from his perspective. And we were talking about having a meeting with him anyway to,
He's willing to come to a select board meeting
Yeah.
anyway and talk to us. So
Yeah.
I think
so we can
that would
cover
be a
all
good
of
first
that.
step.
Right,
Yeah.
and that
Yeah.
was something we suggested in the contract
Right.
with Wyndham.
yeah, and we've certainly done that periodically, we just haven't done it recently. You know, I mean, one thing that, you know, again, it's a lull, which is great, but we haven't particularly followed up on sort of community policing aspects, and there was a lot of discussion as to who should, you know, I mean.
What that would look like.
Exactly, involvement of Putney Family Services
Right,
or
right.
Putney Cares or, you know, various different already existing entities that might be able to be bolstered to help with that.
Yeah,
You know, just that kind of stuff. It would be great if there were people thinking about it, because it's not something that
right,
tends to come before us,
mhm,
except when it's an issue.
right.
But
Yeah,
we
we don't
could
want that to
probably be
happen.
more active.
We should
I
be-
do
yeah.
know that there's been a lot more break-ins in Dummerston recently.
I've
That's
seen
been-
that, yeah.
And I think, like I said, knock on wood, I think that that's
Luck of
been,
the draw.
yeah, but, it would be worth talking to Deputy Tuttle and see what he has to say about.
All right,
activity
I'll
in
see
this
when
area.
his schedule is and get him
Mhm.
lined up for a select board meeting. Either the next one or the one after.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it would probably be worth having that conversation with Tom too, just to say, you know, what if any purpose could this committee serve for you?
Absolutely.
You know,
Right.
would it be helpful for them to
Mhm.
do this, that, or the other if you wanted them to?
Mhm.
He might say, no, thanks, but he might say, yeah, that would be great. You know?
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Animal Advisory Board, they're very active still.
Actually, while we're on that topic, we probably ought to, Norm Bartlett, who's our rep for Rescue Inc.,
Mhm.
usually comes in.
Get him.
Okay.
Hasn't been in for a while,
Mhm.
just because we haven't invited him, but just for sort of an update on rescue.
Okay. Will do. Animal Advisory Board, very active. They're meeting now once a month, but they're working on
Qualifications and, yeah,
revising the ordinance. So we didn't get any hits on the animal control officer.
you've had that posted again.
No, I posted it once, but I may put it on Putney.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I ran into, I can't think of his name right now, but he had come in and spoken before I was on this board. Yes, I ran into him, and
He's upset.
yes.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, we definitely did not do well with communicating with him
No, I
appropriately.
sent him a letter.
And you
and
did,
he
you
didn't
followed up.
respond,
Yeah.
So,
No,
He
I'm
felt
not
that it
surprised.
was very late, and I think he felt just very dismissed. And I don't think that's on you at all, Karen. I think that's just the situation at the
Mhm.
time. We had a lot going on, there was a lot of transition.
right.
But I'm just passing that along.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I have heard that, and no, you know. Poor timing, poor communication, poor, you know, several things played a role in it.
Yeah, and the Animal Advisory Board is working with the town clerk too. So they have a list
Oh,
of
that's good.
unregistered dogs.
Good.
They have sent letters,
Okay.
so any complaints, they've been sending letters to the dog owners and saying, you know, this situation, your dog's not registered, please
Mhm.
come to the office.
You remind me how long a person has after having adopted or acquired a dog? How long do they have before they have to have it licensed?
They don't have to be licensed unless they're 6 months
Okay,
or older.
okay,
But, so any dog that's 6 months needs to be licensed and.
so like immediate, as soon as you adopt, you have to go to the town?
Yeah,
Okay.
especially if it's of age.
Okay.
And usually when you adopt, they're already spayed or neutered,
Mhm,
so you don't have to wait for that either.
mhm, mhm.
But,
But I'd be surprised if there isn't some, you know,
Grace.
within
Right.
15 or
Right,
30 days
right.
or something,
Yeah.
but I don't
Okay,
know.
that's-
yeah,
I was asked today and I referred them to your office, but,
Yeah.
to the clerk, but,
there's a lot of rescue dogs too,
mhm.
and, yeah, no, if they're of age, they should be coming in and registering.
And 6 months is the age.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yep,
good to know.
They have to have rabies shots first, don't they?
they have to have that too, yeah.
Yeah.
And you have to show proof
Right.
of
Of rabies,
vaccination, yeah.
Mhm.
And even when a dog's picked up at the Humane Society,
Mhm.
before they can leave, they gotta show proof
Approved.
of rabies.
Mhm.
So, it's important to get your dogs vaccinated,
Oh, I agree.
kinda like your children.
Not going there.
And perhaps less controversial.
So I'm thinking I'm gonna try to arrange for them to speak in front of you. Maybe not the next meeting, but the following meeting.
Great,
Mhm.
All right?
yeah,
Sounds good.
No, I think it's important that
yeah.
these committees that are active, they need to update us and,
And it's important for us to
yeah.
know what they're doing.
Yeah, and what about the energy committee? Can we get them
Mm.
scheduled
I can,
at some point?
yeah,
That'd be great.
sure.
I'm so curious as to what's going on with them, because they were in here last night.
Yeah, they're active too,
Yeah,
so. But I will contact, I think Elizabeth's going away for a couple months.
but they have,
Steve.
they still have quite a roster,
Instead.
so,
Right.
yeah. And JJ's on that one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is Morgan?
On what, energy?
Morgan
Yeah.
Casella is, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And Steve,
Horvis? No.
oh, yeah.
Yep,
Morgan.
Tom Nelson,
Yeah, yeah,
Tom Nelson and Doug Grant
yep.
are all,
Mhm. And Doug just got back too.
yeah.
I saw him.
Yeah. Yeah, he's doing some exciting stuff to that house.
Where is he?
He bought the craft store, on the right hand, Route 5 coming north.
Just before the treatment plant road.
The little,
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
Adelphi?
so he bought that
Yes.
and
Yeah.
he's renting the upstairs to her. And he's
Living
redoing
in.
the downstairs and he's putting in all kinds of solar panels and
Cool.
there's some really exciting stuff going on. He's,
Good.
yeah.
All right,
Warrants.
warrants. Motion.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was looking at auditor's request for information.
Yeah.
So I'll move to approve and execute the warrants as listed,
Presented.
presented.
There you go.
I second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the warrants as presented upon completion of review. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Payroll warrant dated July 6th in the amount of $8,145.89.
You're all done with the school now, aren't you?
Have they taken it out
Yeah.
of your hands?
The school?
The supervisory union?
Yeah. Yay, congratulations.
Well, I mean, we're finishing up and I'm sending the information and stuff, but.
Okay,
Look like it's gonna
Yeah,
streamline it?
yeah,
Good.
good. Now, I'm asking for the reports.
You can
I keep going. All right, so payroll warrant dated July 13th. This includes the library for $11,465.57. Library and lifeguards.
Mm. Speaking of, what's going on with the floor? That,
I have a representative going up there to look at the paint,
okay,
and from Sherwin-Williams.
Okay.
We're also gonna try to figure out what to put on there. I
mhm,
spoke to Katie too,
mhm,
so she explained where it's happening.
mhm.
So I'm thinking that artificial green grass rug might work there too.
Mhm,
And they can just pull it out,
mhm.
hang it over the fence and
Yeah.
it'll dry.
Yeah,
But that could be a solution,
yeah, that's a good idea.
yeah. Because I guess there's a little lip right there too,
Okay.
so.
Are you gonna respond to her, or do you want me to do that? Do you want to give her an update on what's happening?
I can do that,
Okay,
yeah.
all right, thank you.
But, yeah, we're gonna find a solution for that
Okay.
wet floor. Payroll warrant dated July 20th, $6,065.70. No lifeguards on this warrant. No timesheets were presented.
So that saves money, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah, did you see the difference?
yeah, it's,
I had to look at it and go, why is this so low? I had that conversation with Beverly. We chased timesheets last week. Leah went up to the pool.
Couldn't do your job.
yeah.
You're not doing that anymore.
Right. Lack of a paycheck is usually a pretty good motivator.
Yeah.
And Bev's had the conversation with them anyway. Accounts payable warrant dated July 1st through the 20th. $184,455.45. It's large. There's 2 note payments in here, one for the grader, one for a fire engine. You'll see that, they're highlighted. Southwestern New Hampshire Mutual Aid, their annual contract is in here for $29,300. And the deposit for the 5 mini splits, $16,500 to Josh King. So it's big, but
Covers a lot.
it's all legitimate.
That's good.
When those mini splits go in, is that old air conditioner gonna come out?
I would think, because it wouldn't make sense to keep it in the window
Yeah,
when you have the other units in there.
yeah.
And it will be quiet for certain people.
Yeah.
You're thinking you might know of a home for it?
Oh, no, I was just thinking about the efficiency and
Yeah,
that
that's what
it's incredibly inefficient compared to the mini splits.
Yeah.
We
No,
wouldn't want
typically,
people accidentally turning it on instead of using
Right.
one of them.
yeah. No, and I mean, typically if they're even bordering on 10 years old, they're
Yeah.
way past their prime. I don't know how long that one's been there.
But I thought that one wasn't in a window. I thought it was actually wall installed. I could be mistaken.
No, it's definitely in the window.
It's in a window?
Yeah.
Okay. Then it's no big deal. They'll just take it out,
Yeah,
I'm
because we
sure.
had to turn it off
Okay,
at the public hearing. It was
okay,
loud.
yeah.
There may be others that are wall installed though, because I would guess they have them in, certainly in dispatch, there must be one. I can't think where it is.
I don't know why I'm visualizing it that way, but
It looks a little like that. It's
Yeah.
kind of tucked in there.
yeah.
I think Noe, that's Carl Noe, is,
Yeah,
what is he? He does,
he does radios.
that's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
he calibrates and whatever else he does with those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hydroseed, what do we hydroseed?
That was, yeah.
That was
gonna
River
ask about
Road. So Brian did some ditching
Oh, he did?
on both sides, and
Oh,
it was,
good.
a large amount.
So he
And,
had hydroseeded, good.
Yes.
Ditching sounds fun. I bet it's not, but it
Depends on-
sounds it.
Depends on the temperature and the
Yeah.
equipment you're running and.
Well, I'm sure he's been having fun since he's gotten an excavator.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a new
Probably-
toy.
It probably has AC in it. so-
Exactly.
sure.
AC, music,
Nice sound system, yeah.
Yeah.
all kinds of.
All right. Other business?
Right, so there's no action on these 3 items, I just throw them on there for information. So John Mudgett gave me a 2-page, I thought it was only one, and I flipped it over and I'm like, oh. This is extensive.
I read that.
Ah,
Made my eyes bleed.
So, we'll be preparing to prepare these reports for John, and he will help me. This is my first year,
Yeah.
but I'm not too stressed out about it. No anxiety yet. I think we can get through it.
You had one highlighted, at least on the e-copy.
Oh, you know why? Because I already did that one.
Oh, okay. All right.
Already got a whole one done. All right.
One down.
Yeah, and that was on the good side.
Much of this, as you've already recognized, is stuff that you sort of
Never.
have readily available.
Yeah.
You just
Yeah,
have to make it available. You know.
right. So, it'll take more than one day.
Come on, Karen.
If I split it up. Tax bills were mailed out
I
on
know,
July
yeah.
13th.
Yeah, got it.
We are getting phone calls because some state payments have not come through yet.
There was a thing about that on the radio today, actually.
If you go on to iPutney, I posted words from the state.
Okay.
So, and I've been directing everybody there because there's a phone number that they can call to check on their exemption. So when we generated the tax bills, we only had 325 homestead
HSA.
exemption payments out of, well, there's 1,019 tax bills that went out, but not all of those would get
Right.
the state payment. So there are some that are gonna come through. And they're hoping, the state is hoping by July 27th, they'll all be reviewed, but we'll see. So if you come, somebody comes up to you and says, hey, this tax bill's not right. Yes. But that's the biggest noticeability about once we explain it to people, they're like, okay, yeah, we can wait. But now August 17th is the first payment. So I'm letting people know that if you don't see your state payment by then, because we get a download from the state, we generate the revised bill, goes out to the homeowner. So we're just letting them know, you should probably pay it, and then we'll apply your state payment to the other 2 payments.
And for many people, this will not be the first time this has happened. I mean,
Right.
there's often sort of a
Yeah,
hopscotch approach to this.
right. I had a gentleman call me today, he's like, I live in Putney, but why does my tax bill say non-residential education rate? I'm like, do you usually get a state payment? He's like, yeah. And I'm like, so I looked at last year's bill, he had the homestead education rate, but he also had the state payment. I says, we haven't received the download yet. So once we get that state payment, then that rate's gonna change for him, and it changes automatically in the system. So I says, yeah, you're gonna get your tax payment, that's gonna reduce it, but then you're gonna have the homestead education rate, which is gonna increase it. Less of the 2 evils, I guess. Sewer utility billing increases. They are effective July 1st. People are not gonna see that increase, and it's 25.3% until their October billing. I just wanna make that announcement.
And maybe that could go up on iPutney,
Yeah.
an explanation of
I
that,
can do
because
that, yep.
that's coming back a lot, or at the town website or both, or, yeah.
Well, I've
wherever
been
we
hearing,
can put it.
that,
Yeah.
and I wanna make it clear that July 1st, they went into effect.
And that people were noticed of that in their last
More than
bill,
once,
right?
more
Yeah,
than once.
exactly.
There's some confusion though over
I'm
how
sure.
that affects the water bill, does
Yeah.
that affect the water bill?
Right.
You know, many people got mixed up on that.
It does not affect the water,
Right.
it's just the sewer portion.
Yeah.
No longer
And it's
And-
fixed,
Yeah,
yeah.
and it's a rolling, balance. So, but what we do is we backfill, so,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, if you don't understand the process, then of course you're gonna be like, what? So, I just wanted to give you guys a heads up on those.
Sounds good, thank you. All right, so we will have an executive session, and you said you had some wording.
There's two motions.
All right, so I'll make a motion to find that premature general public I move to find that premature general public knowledge regarding a real estate matter will clearly place the town at a substantial disadvantage if it discusses the proposed matter in public. And I move that we enter into executive session to discuss a real estate matter under the provisions of Title I, Section 313A, Section 2A of the Vermont statutes.
And these are both out of statutory language, right?
Right.
Yes. So it's essentially one motion to go into executive session with the two different statements associated.
Right.
Correct?
Before we do that, can I go use the restroom? Or I can do that while we're in
Yeah,
executive
no, or-
session?
Yeah, we could, well, why don't we enter
Go
and
in
then
and
she'll
Oh,
so
sign off.
give her, yeah.
So-
And we'll invite
Yeah.
Karen
Karen.
to join us.
Okay.
Deb doesn't need to, and we will
Yeah.
not be taking any action as a result of
Yeah,
this
there will
discussion.
not be a decision.
Second the motion.
I second the motion.
So it's been moved and seconded to go into executive session for the purpose of the discussion of real estate as clarified. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.